Everybody, welcome back to another fun and exciting Algebra 1 class. Today we are going to be kind of taking the last couple lessons and combining them into one lesson. There's no new material on this video, so it's just kind of taking lesson 2 and lesson 3, mixing them together, and then we're going to be doing equations with both the addition property and the multiplication property. You'll see what I mean in just a second. Let's just go ahead and just jump right into it. Look down here, I have 2x plus 3 is less than 5. So what I want to do here is I want to solve it just like it's an equation. What does that mean? Well, instead of having a less than sign, just kind of pretend it has an equal sign. You're going to solve it just like you would an equation. Remember, the only difference is if we ever divide or multiply by a negative number, we have to flip the inequality sign. So if it was less than, it would go to greater than, and you'll see one of those examples here in just a little bit. This first one doesn't have that. It just has all positive numbers, so we're just going to subtract 3 from both sides, and we're going to get 2x is less than 2. We're going to divide 2 by both sides. That's going to cancel, and we're going to get x is less than 1. 2 divided by 2 is 1. And so then we will come down here, and remember the next step is to draw your number line. And this is two parts, but it's the same answer. So this is part of the answer right here. And the second part of the answer is going to be our number line. And so I'd start here. I'll call that 0, 1, 2, 3. You can just put that. The only number that's really important on this number line, to be honest with you, is this number right here, this critical number. So we'll go ahead and circle that critical number. And remember, we're just going to circle it. We're not going to color it in. Why don't we color it in? Because this is not equal to, it's just less than. And so then we're going to substitute. We're going to try out some numbers from both sides. Let's try this number 2 and let's try this 0. So we'll try the 2 first. 2 is less than 1. That's not true. And so let's back up so that doesn't work. And then we can try the 0. 0 is less than 1. Yes, that works. So we are going to color in the left side on this one. Okay, and that will be your answer. X is less than 1, and then there's the graph that corresponds with that answer. All right, and so all we did was we basically took two pieces. This was the addition property that we learned a few days ago, and then this part was the multiplication property, which we learned in the last lesson. Let's do another one. Now, this one, if you notice, this one has a negative sign right here. So this one is going to have an interesting thing that we're going to have to do with it here in just a little bit. But you always want to start off just like you would in a regular equation. So again, kind of pretend like that's an equal sign for right now, and we're just going to start solving it. What would we do first? You would take the 1 to the other side by subtracting 1 from both sides. That's going to cancel that out, and we're going to get negative 5x is less than or equal to 16 minus 1 is going to equal 15. Now what we want to do is we want to do the multiplication property, which we learned in the last lesson. And that means that we are going to take this and we're going to divide both sides by a negative 5. Negative 5. Now remember, the one trick that we learned in this is when you multiply or divide by a negative number, you have to take this sign and you have to flip it. You have to change it over to, now it was less than, now we're going to make it greater than. That's going to cancel. We're going to get x is greater than or equal to, and that's going to 15 divided by a negative 5 is going to give us a negative 3. Negative 3. So there's our answer. Our answer is x is greater than or equal to negative 3. Then we would come down here and we would make our line graph. We could put a 0, 1, 2, 3 on the negative side. You really don't have to put anything over there. This is the number that's important. We can put another number here because we'll have to test one over here. But I'll come up here and I will circle the number negative 3. Now, here's the question. Do I need to color in the 3 or not? Yes, I do. I need to color in the -3. Why? Because it was equal to. All right. And so now we have to determine which side we're going to go. So we can test a side. We can test that 0. 0 is greater than or equal to -3. And that is true. 0 is bigger than -3. And so our line is going to go this way. One thing I always encourage students to do is you can always check this just to make sure you didn't mess up. -4 is greater than -3. No, that's not true. So we are good. All right, let's do one more. This one's a little bit more complicated maybe, but you just follow your steps of solving equations. Remember, there's no difference between solving inequalities and solving equalities, except for when we divide by that negative number right there, we have to flip the sign. So everything else stays the same. We just do our regular math procedures right here. So what I see here is, well, I could really do a couple things, but you always in algebra, I call it do what you can do. Do what you can do. Okay, what does that mean? Well, if there's something, if there's an operation that you can do before you start moving things around, always solve what you can solve. Always do what you can do. And there is something that I can do before I start moving things from one side to the other. And that is I can distribute that 3. I can solve those parentheses by distributing my 3. So I'm going to come up with 3x minus 3 plus 2 is greater than 5. There's still something else that I can do. I'm still on the step, do what you can do. Because look, right here I have some like terms. I can combine those. So I end up with 3x. -3 plus 2 is -1 or -1 is greater than 5. And then I would go ahead and just solve that now. Now it's kind of in about the same format that we've been seeing some of the other ones in, so we can solve that pretty easily. We're just going to take that -1 to the other side by adding 1 and adding 1. And then that's going to give us 3x is greater than 6. We'll divide 3 on both sides, and we're going to get x is greater than 2. X is greater than 2. Okay. Once I get that solution, I would come down and I would put that onto my graph. So we'll start with 0. I always like to start with 0. Some people like to start with the critical number and put a 2 there. I don't really like 2 in the middle. I like 0 in the middle, but you can do it however you want to. And I'll put some numbers here. Let's see, 1, 2, -1. It's fine. You don't really even need to put the numbers down there. I want the critical number put there, but really you don't need to number the whole thing out. It's not that important. And then I'm going to come here and I'm going to circle the critical number. In this case, I would not fill it in because it is not equal to, and I would test a point. So we could test 3. 3 is greater than 2. Yes, it is. So we would color in that side of our graph. Okay. All right, and that's all I have for you in that lesson. But because that lesson was so short and because the next lesson is so short, I'm just going to put them together. What do you think about that? And we'll just do 2 lessons in one video. I think that that's the easiest way to go about this. So if you will, you can go ahead and turn in your book to lesson 4.5. Lesson 4.5. I'll write that down on the screen here so you can see it. Lesson 4.5. And in lesson 4.5, we are going to be talking about how to turn like a word problem, how to take words and turn them into an inequality. And again, it's not any different than equalities. That's why I don't really need to spend a lot of time here. We've already done a word problem lesson about equalities. It'll take us just a minute to basically kind of talk about the things that we need to with inequalities. And that is on page number 139. Page 139 in your book. The top of the page, they give you some steps of how to do this. In step one, they say that you need to assign the variable to an unknown. So basically, you find what you don't know, and you call that X, or you call that Y, or you call that A, or you call that B, whatever letter you want to pick. Number two, you're going to recognize or determine the proper inequality. Okay, is this greater than? Is this less than? Is this less than or equal to? Is this greater than and equal to? What inequality am I working with here? And then you're going to write an equation or write an inequality. And then you will solve your inequality just like we've been solving them. And then you would answer the original question that you're given. All right, so um, if you'll look down here at the screen, so the Smith family wants to pay at most, and this is the key right here when you see something like that, at most, or no more than, or at least, something like that. That's a key word that is telling you the inequality, that it's no more than or at least this much. And so those are key words right there. Um, Here's another key. $210,000 for a new home and land. So what they want to do is they want to build a house, and so they're going to buy some land, they're going to buy some property, and they're going to have somebody come in and build it on their land. Well, they don't, for both things together, the house builder and for the land, the property that they're buying, they do not want to spend more than $210,000. That's the most. That is the absolute most. So here's the question. Can they spend $210,000? Yes, they can, but they can't or they don't want to spend more than that. So in this case, this one's going to be a equal to. It's got to be less than or equal to that. So that's where you kind of find the inequality in this one. What sign to use? So we could write that. We could actually say they want to spend less than or equal to $210,000. Okay. Well, now let's talk about what they want for a new home and land. So they home plus the land. So whatever they buy, the home plus the land cannot equal more than that. And obviously with this being an algebra problem, we don't want to write home and land. So we want to write this in a little bit different method. But let's keep reading the problem to see if we get any more hints in here. What is the most they can pay to build their new home if the land cost $46,000? So that right now they're telling you, hey, the land is going to cost 46,000. So what you could do here is you could go here and instead of land, you could write $46,000. And then you could write the whole rest of this, 210. And now instead of home, this is the missing piece. This is the part that we don't know. And so if it's algebra, we're just going to put an X there because we don't know what it is. All right, so there's our equation, or there's our inequality, I guess you would say. What we would do is we just solve it. Subtract 46,000 from each side. And this one's going to cancel. Okay, so we're left with X is less than or equal to, and then we just need to do the math there. If you have a calculator, you can do it on the calculator. It's fine. If not, it's not a hard problem. Just go down here. You guys have been doing this kind of arithmetic for years. And so you'd have 164,000 left. Let me write that a little bit better. 164,000 over here so you can see it better. 164,000 would be our answer, and this would be dollars too. So now we go back to the question and we say, What is the most they can pay to build their new home? So the most they can pay for the home is 164,000 because they had to pay 46,000 for the land. Okay? All right, and I mean, I could go through just example after example and do them, but really these kind of all fall under the same type of situation. You just have to go through it, figure out, okay, is this less than, greater than, what is it equal to, what are the missing parts, fill it all in, and then just go ahead and solve it from there. So these work out just like equations, word problems, except for, don't forget, if you ever multiply or divide by a negative number, then you have to flip the sign. Other than that, there is no change between equations and inequalities. Okay? All righty, well, I hope you learned something today. If not, make sure that you go back and you watch that again. Maybe rewind that over some parts. If you're struggling, go ahead and practice some of these. There's lots of practice problems right there in your book, and in no time you'll be able to do this. Okay? All righty, we'll see you later. Have a good one. Bye bye.